Welcome to the Dental Team podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, today is a pretty special day for me because I have been coaching these two doctors for the last, year. They just hit their year mark, but our relationship stems even further before that, and they are two phenomenal students that I met when we worked together at Midwestern. They were new doctors there, and I was so lucky to become friends with them and now to watch them go through their journey. So I am beyond excited to welcome Dr. Nick and Whitney Forsythe. They are up in Mount Vernon, Washington, and it is beyond exciting for me to have them today. So Nick and Whitney, how are you today?
Great. Good. It's an honor to be on. I love this podcast.
Oh, you guys are the kindest people. And it's super fun because not only are they amazing dentists, but they're such good people. And they're gorgeous. So it's like the Ken Barbie, like just beautiful couple as well. So, and that is not a joke.
Now you're making us blush.
I love it. I love it. So let's kind of talk about your guys' journey of, you guys just celebrated your 1 year of practice ownership. So let's kind of just give a little bit of a background, how your journey started. You guys were in dental school together, you met, fell in love, got married, and now you have a practice together. So kind of just share your story. We'll start with you, Whitney. Kind of walk us through what happened with your guys' journey. And Nick, chime in at any time.
Yeah, so I graduated in 17, and Nick was a year behind me. So I worked for a year for a corporate office. Mm-hmm. And right about the time we went to Mark Costas's event in the spring of 2017, we were like, wait a second, like we could do this. We could own a business. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. At that point, we really hit the road and looked for practices, sent out our letters to all the retiring doctors in Washington. We knew we wanted to go back to Nick's home. And it kind of started with that. Mark Costas really changed our mind about, early ownership. And
yeah, I would say that really changed. We kind of did the normal thought where, we have to work a couple years first before we think. We were both interested in owning, but, didn't think we could do it. And that kind of fueled our fire. And it definitely took longer than we expected, though. We searched my whole senior year and Whitney's first year of practice. And then we moved back and we both got separate jobs. I think I worked for about 6 months until we landed on our perfect practice. So we went through a lot of numbers, a lot of different practices. And that's, I think, when you start, we knew you in school, and that's when you kind of joined in with us.
Amen. You knew nothing.
Right.
You were.
And I love what you said. I want to actually double back because I think you guys, there were a few really key points that for those of you thinking about ownership or for new doctors out there, the fact that you realized that ownership could be a sooner dream as opposed to the far out dream. Because I hear that from a lot of students that, we need to go work for a couple of years before we become owners. I think it's that fear of the unknown. And so you think that associateship's going to prepare you for it, which from my opinion, I think associateship, if you're not confident with your clinical skills, associateship is great for you. But as far as business 101 of owning a practice, I don't see a lot of that coming from associateships most of the time. It doesn't mean it can't, but generally speaking, I've heard from many, and I'm curious of your guys' take, but that there's, it's really just jumping into ownership. And I know that's how I felt. I was like, I could never have prepared for this any better than jumping in, seeing the pieces, reaching out to people who have been there before me and getting my feet wet. So I love that you guys had that perspective change. Was that evident for you with the associateship versus ownership? What did you guys kind of experience in that?
Yeah, it was nice for Nick, I feel like, to maybe get the jitters out the first 6 months.
Yes. And I mean, when we talk about associateships too, I took away a lot, even in those 6 months. And part of that, I was working part-time at our practice when Whitney was kind of building up, and then part-time at just another practice. And I worked for another private practice doc, and she was able to mentor me, and I still reach out to her, which was very helpful. And the difference in efficiency between Whitney and I when I came in was apparent. So I definitely spent that first year just honing my dental skills, and where Whitney had already kind of reached that point. But business-wise, we were podcast junkies. We read a lot of books. I mean, we assembled a great team.
But nothing can compare.
But we
nothing
still
can
have
prepare
lots
you.
of things to talk to you about each week.
Learn the hard way. And I think I totally agree. Just jumping in was the best thing.
For sure.
Yeah. And I appreciate the compliment. But I also think you guys were very well prepared. And so I think for those who are looking to buy a practice, Nick, you were really intelligent, and I loved that you came to me everywhere we saw each other. You would reach out to me. Whitney, you were doing the same thing. Being a resource in school, I loved that you guys took me up on that. But I loved that we went through this, because literally our journey, I mean, you guys remember, let's go back to when you were buying a practice and how we thought we'd close on this day. And then it was like wait game for many months. And like we stopped coaching for a while because we were just waiting for it. And then when it finally closed, it was like, okay, now let's get to work. But I do think that you guys exponentially prepared for ownership prior to owning, with the podcast junkie, the researching. Nick, you did such a great job on your demographics report, looking to see if this was a good practice. Whitney, you did phenomenal. You took the office manager course from Dental Team, really learning that role while you had time in between your associateship and ownership. And you had so many of the systems and everything pre-built before you even started day one of ownership. And for me, coaching you and coaching several offices, I've seen just a different level of experience, caliber, and direction that you guys have had as opposed to some of the other offices. And I really feel it's because you educated yourself prior to ownership. That's on my side. What did you guys feel that really prepared you for ownership in the best way?
Well, definitely starting with we did go to the Mark Costas kind of business ownership. A few of those CEs, we reached out to as many people as we could, got our hands on as many books as we could.
That's so hard. You think you're prepared though, and then
we thought we were so prepared.
And there are so many things that you find. It's funny looking back now. Like I thought I had to get this new patient packet ready before we started. I had to do this, I had to do that. But then just getting in there, I think what's most important is forming that relationship with the team, and getting the team and the patients to trust you was so important, especially in a transition. And you kind of have to put on the brakes for a second and say, okay, I can't change everything, or I can't reach every single goal I have right now. I have to kind of start slow, or start with the most important things, because I am just wanting to get everything done right now.
Kind of instant gratification people. So it was, once you get it, and it's about finding that right practice, really, we look back and at some of the practices we really thought about buying, and
it was a blessing it didn't work out.
Or basically couldn't imagine practices. So I think we lucked out that way too, finding just the right practice.
But I also would say luck, yes, for sure, because you guys have a fantastic practice. And for those of you who are listening, they have a really, really cool fee-for-service practice, which I'm super proud of them. They transitioned it successfully on their own. They didn't have the owner doctor staying with them. That wasn't really an option for them. And transitioning a fee-for-service office is not an easy feat, but I am very impressed with you guys. You guys have done a great job. Your first year was awesome. And it's a tiny practice. It's what, 4 ops? Is it 4 ops for 2 docs? No big deal. It's totally fine. No big deal. No big deal. Don't worry, expansion's on the rise. But I did think that was something, luck, yes, but I also felt you guys were patient and you did your research to know. So even though, and Whitney, I agree, back to your point, of really when you guys get into that ownership mindset and you're buying a practice, to remember that the practice ownership is a marathon, not a sprint. And really just, okay, prioritizing what really needs to take place versus what is not important. It might be urgent, but it's not important, and making sure you prioritize that. And that's something I think you guys have done really well. I also love, because you're a husband-wife duo, sometimes I work with a lot of couples as well. I think it was really important and paramount, and I don't know, I want you guys' take on this. How was it like dividing up roles between the two of you? Because I watch a lot of times husband-wife duos in practices, ownership, they really like bleed the lines with each other as opposed to keeping it clean cut. So it's harder for the team to know what to do. How has that been for you guys as far as being a husband-wife duo and partners in ownership? All the things. How has that been for you guys? And what would you recommend to somebody else in your same shoes?
Still married.
We're still married. That is a huge win. All right. Tell us how. How did this take place?
Before we were people who knew that we could work together. We talked about it a lot. We actually filled in for a dentist at another office and just got a little taste of it. But we liked it. We liked being together during the day.
Our love language is quality time. So that's always...
That helps. That is the same thing. That's very beneficial.
But the roles did bleed over quite a bit. Definitely. We did have to have a moment in the first year where, okay, let's step back and kind of reassess our roles. Because I think going into it, we both thought, this is my role. This is what I'm going to be good at. And then when you get into the business, you kind of figure out, it just kind of separate. You naturally take on what you take on.
I think over the past year, we've really learned a lot about each other too, and what each of us is good at. So that's been really helpful. And then just sitting down and like you said, separating the roles, and you really coached us in that too. So I think that's been really good.
Yeah, that was something I was very afraid of at the beginning, because you're happy and you're in love and you just bought this practice and it's great. But I've also watched the happy and love not pan out as you're working in partnerships, and it's not because you're not happy or a great couple. It's because you don't identify those roles early on. And then you start to bleed into each other's worlds. And then it's like, well, what am I responsible for? What are you responsible for? Wait, who forgot to do that? Why did nobody do payroll? I thought you were taking care of that. No, I thought you were taking care of that. And so I'm really, really, really sticky when I work with couples or anyone in general of making sure that you really have that clearly defined. And we constantly work on evolving that relationship just to make sure it's efficient, easy, and you guys stay happy and in love. I think some of my favorite coaching action items with you guys has been, okay, this week, I need you guys to go on a date where you don't talk about the business at all. Just go have fun, go on a date, remember why you're partners, why you're in love. And that's just been fun. You guys have been great.
That's what puts you just in another level of consultant. You really, genuinely, you care about us as people and our relationship. So
I do. I really do. You guys, it's fun because not only are you fantastic dentists and it's fun to coach you, but also I'm very invested in your personal life. I think knowing you in dental school helped a lot too, but I genuinely want you to excel. And so it's been fun to watch and see you guys grow and morph. And I will say, for both of you, you've both grown in your ownership, your leadership. It was fun this year when we were starting off the year for you guys to see, okay, we know where we need to go. We know the discussion we need to have with our team. Even though it's uncomfortable for us, it's really fun to watch you guys knowing that some of those uncomfortable conversations are where you need to go, and to watch you navigate it so much greater than you have done in the past. So it's been a fun evolution. So I want to circle back and ask you guys, if you could coach somebody or give someone tips and advice, what things would you tell someone who's getting ready to buy a practice, or so either that side of the coin or their first year in ownership? What would you coach this person on, or give them a little nugget of information so that way they're very successful? I will say, you guys, for a couple in first year ownership with a 4-op practice with 2 doctors in there, I was blown away. Of course, I knew you guys would be successful, but I was shocked at how great your first year of ownership was. So I'm not going to share all your numbers. I think that's personal. But from someone who coaches over 100 offices, beyond impressed with you guys. So what would you share? What would you give tips or advice to other people in your same shoes that you wish you would have known earlier on, or that you just would recommend to them now at this point in your life?
Well, hire an awesome consultant. Like,
thank you,
I'm
guys.
not kidding. It's such a roller coaster, especially this first year. And we have our highs and our lows. And whenever I'm having a low, I get on a phone call with you and feel so energized again, and I have action items every time we have a phone call, and just a direction. Sometimes dentistry feels like you're on your own. We always say, I don't know how, the single owners do it,
Right.
because we at least have each other, but I still feel like, you kind of have to be on your little island, but you have really helped us, and you always have connections and, other people going through the same thing. So I think that's been paramount for sure.
Well, thank you. Yeah. That I appreciate a lot. And I'm glad I've been able to be that resource for you, because that is what we try to do, is to be that resource and not make you feel like an isolated island out there. But I mean, even our call yesterday, you guys were asking me, and I'm like, I don't know that, but you know what? I know 5 other people that do. Let me just reach out to them and I'll get back to you on that. And I appreciate you guys have been very willing and open and coachable, but I also say too that you're phenomenal. Like, you are the bad A's of implementing information. You will, Whitney, I know you will check off that list. Nick, I know you'll check off that list. And I also think that that's been key to us having a very successful coaching relationship as well. So thank you for that. And thank you guys for being great implementers too. I think that's been a great piece of your success. Nick, what were you going to say?
Oh, I totally agree. Having a great kind of personal team to bounce things off of, having, you as a coach, and just assembling your team before you go in, and kind of knowing not everything's going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. I mean, I keep, and you remind us of this too, is each week I'm like, oh, now, we're going to get to perfection. It's only been, but it's just kind of rolling with the punches, and things are going to go wrong. Things are going to change. I know there's a couple different theories when you go into a practice, and it kind of, I don't think any single theory is right, whether you should go in and just make a bunch of changes right away, or go in and keep things the same for 6 months. We went back and forth with this, especially in a fee-for-service office where patients are choosing to go there. The older doctors left, they all loved him. So, we were kind of forced. We had to make changes. We had to put in some updates just for Whitney and I, and bringing in 2 doctors instead of 1. I mean, we really did change a lot of things. So I don't know. I wouldn't be as afraid to go in and make changes like we did. I think we were gentle about it. We weren't, yelling at anybody or being really strict, but gentle changes, I think.
Gentle changes. Yeah. That's nice.
I really like how you said that, because I agree. I agree. It was gentle changes. And so, Nick, I want you to dive in a little bit deeper on that. What changes did you implement that you felt were very effective? Because I agree. And to your point, I will say there is no right formula for every practice. Do you go in and change the whole thing? Do you create gentle changes? Do you hold on to your old team? I have found in all the transition practices that I've coached on, or that I've seen, or I've worked with, there is no right formula. There is just a right formula for you. And I really do believe whatever you choose to do will be right, because you're a creator, you're an innovator, you will figure it out. So not being afraid of that, but I think you guys did a really good job with your gentle changes, the way you opted to navigate that. But what were some of those changes that you would recommend maybe earlier on or later on? What were some of the things that, and Whitney, chime in as well, that you noticed that were really effective changes for you guys?
I wish actually we would have had our employee manual really locked down before we entered the practice, with PTO and vacation, sick time, dental benefits. I feel like that's something we've had to work on. And your employees are expecting you to know all this, mm-hmm. and as a new owner, they're like, oh wait, I don't. So having that all just panned out before you go in would be super helpful, and just make easier conversations like, this is how it is. And that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough to stand strong on a few things when you're a little unsure, and that's what you have your team for, to bounce everything off of, like your lawyers, your CPA, your coach. because they'll turn to you, and your team, your employees they'll do whatever they've normally been doing, if you don't change the rules, but they will listen.
You guys did a
So
really good job building an advisory board. I think that like you've called it team, I call it advisory board. I think you guys have done a really fantastic job of having a strong advisory board to ask those questions to be able to keep moving forward, as opposed to getting backlogged on questions or concerns you don't have the answers to. I think that's something you guys did very, very well early on in your ownership.
Yeah, that's been really helpful. And as for changes that we made coming in, it's almost hard to remember back to what changes we had to make. But
right.
I mean, simplest things.
Yeah,
we're
first
using
things
paper
first,
charts.
we went to all computers.
Yep.
Billing at time of service.
Yeah, billing at time of service, which is still a work in progress after 1 year.
Handoffs. We're always working on handoffs.
Yeah, handoffs, systems. The office, it was a smaller office, like you said, that we took over. So a lot of systems don't really need to be in place in that small of an office. So as we grew, just with one more doctor, one more assistant, maybe one more front desk, all of a sudden things get a little more complicated. So recognizing when, you need a system for this, you need a system for that. And that was, that's again, something that you're really good at. And we always come to you to ask how this should be done, or do you know somebody who knows this? I wouldn't be afraid to, we diagnosed a lot, a lot of treatment at the beginning, and I didn't feel we were overdiagnosing at all, but a lot of patients hadn't had work in a while, and the doctor leaving said, he didn't really want to start anything he couldn't finish, which is totally understandable. So when we came in, people were ready for work, and handling that transition with our hygiene team especially was paramount, I think, in our first year. They were on board with us, that we did co-diagnosis with them. They knew a lot of the patients and kind of prepped them that, yes, you do need work. This isn't the younger doctors coming in and making stuff up. So that was, and just getting our patients treatment. So I think that was really, really big in our first year.
I definitely agree.
Biggest cheerleaders, I think, was the biggest help this first year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
For sure. And you guys did a phenomenal job of working with your hygiene team, getting them to be your raving fans. Your hygiene team, gosh, like you guys struck gold with them. They are so good. They are so, you have a hygienist who literally just like schedules patients for treatment. She's like, and this is what you need. They'll be in. And she's ready to go. She's teed it up for you. Like, they're fantastic. And I do think that you guys did such a good job of really fostering that culture from the beginning. But something I love that you guys have done is you weren't afraid. And I feel like you both being confident in your diagnosing, in the way you wanted your practice to look, in the way you were going to hold your team accountable. But like you said, I think, gosh, I am going to coin what you said of the gentle changes, the gentle holding them accountable. So it wasn't this like firm, abrasive, we're doing this because we're the bosses. It was, no, like we just want it to be better for all of you. And we're going to gently change, but we will be changing. And it's going to be for the betterment of everyone. And I feel you guys did such a phenomenal job of that. Whether consciously or unconsciously, but it was a really, really good benefit that you guys did. So good job on that. Now looking forward, what's kind of on the horizon for 2020? What are you guys headed into for this year? Because I like people to hear after 1 year, like what's even on the horizon for a new owner, because some people aren't even to this level. And I think you guys should share some of the things on the docket for 2020.
Yeah, we're taking a lot of continuing education, doing implementing implants and sleep to our practice, and then hopefully getting more than 4 operatories.
It'd be fantastic.
That was a couple, I hate to say red flags, but that's, when buying our practice, the 4 operatories was definitely, we knew it was going to be a squeeze, but in Washington, it's hard to find bigger practices. So
right.
Yeah, our goal has always been to build out. We kind of had someone look at this practice and we know that it can handle definitely 3 or 4 more ops. So that's maybe in the next year or 2, we try not to overextend. Whitney usually does a good job keeping me in check. I usually
yes. These two of you guys haven't heard. You can hear Nick's got the visionary. Whitney's the phenomenal integrator. They work very seamlessly together. As long as Nick, you're getting your checklist is done. Don't miss out on those checklists, or Whitney will be after you.
Whitney is awesome at her checklist. She is definitely and that's what going in. I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to be the manager, but Whitney definitely shines as the implementer and the manager. And, a lot of times when I was working part-time, I'd come and someone would ask me a question and I would think about it and they'd be like, no, you know what? We're just going to ask Whitney.
Smart move, Nick.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited. The growth, the expansion, the implants, the sleep, the expanding your practice. And I think it's really fun to think 1 year ago, you guys had just started as ownership. You guys just celebrated your 1 year. You grew the practice successfully. You've been able to manage 2 doctors. Honestly, I think our biggest win was getting your new patient count up, because that's a zone that was not familiar to me. That marketing is not my strong suit, but we muscled through. I think back to some of our brainstorming sessions of, let's remember the tailgate parties, the orange juice, the donut, all the cheese and wine days. So many things.
Got a lot of things going.
It's always a struggle.
And that's, giving ideas for new owners. We identified our issues, and one of them was new patients. In a fee-for-service office, the practice was averaging 4 to 7 new patients a month. And we've been able to work it up with just kind of on the ground marketing and then Google reviews. We implemented Swell, which is amazing. And
amazing. Let's talk about how, your guys' reviews skyrocketed.
Seriously. And that's, especially in a small town where not a lot of people do Google reviews, we've really been able to ramp that up. And we had a couple months of 25 new patients, which for us is huge.
It's huge. You guys just heard, we went from 8 to 25, and it's a very small niche town. That was definitely, I think, our hardest struggle with you guys.
For sure.
I was ecstatic the day we saw 25, and I was like, we did it. We've done 3 times. This is fantastic. So,
and it really, not knowing numbers going in, you just don't know how, but 25, it doesn't seem like a lot, but for a fee for service office, we do accept Delta Premier, so completely fee for service, but it really, it works. It has been enough, and obviously we want to increase that, and we're hoping with implants and sleep medicine that we can increase our new patients as well. So
for sure. You guys, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your nuggets. If we go back through, I think some of my highlight takeaways were, 1, make sure you guys have clear defined roles. 2, I loved that you said ownership was a possibility sooner than later. Being podcast junkies, researching, getting an advisory board, a coach, a great CPA, using resources around you, having those gentle changes with your team, and then always be looking to be expanding and moving you forward. I feel has helped you guys be a very successful team. And I just love that you guys, I think my overall feel from you is that you are truly doctors who love and care. Yes, you want to have a successful business, but you guys are the people that know a successful business is built upon love, care, and genuine concern for those that you serve. And that's my wrap ups. Are there any last wrap ups you guys want to add in, or things that I might have missed? Because I think you guys are just, the cream of the crop of human beings that are also doctors that are giving back to this world.
I think we should just end it in that way.
And wrap. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for taking time. You gave up your workout for me 2 mornings. We did a coaching call yesterday, and then we did the podcast today. So thank you for being some of my dearest friends, some clients that I'm just beyond proud of. And for those of you listening, Dr. Nick and Dr. Whitney are 2 of the best people. So if you guys want mentors or people, I know that they would be more than generous to give you guys help or whatnot. I just put them on the spot, but I know who they are. So, but thank you so much, Nick and Whitney. I truly appreciate your time and appreciate you guys trusting me to help you grow your practice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything.
Couldn't have done it without you.
We can't say enough good things. I mean, we've loved working with you, so it's been amazing.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, if you connect or resonate with Dr. Nick or Dr. Whitney, please reach out. Dental A Team is always here to help you go to the next level. And thank you, Dr. Nick and Dr. Whitney. And thank you, Dental A Team listeners. And we'll catch you next time on the Dental A Team podcast.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.